purpose acts like an internal compass. It gives you stability when everything around you becomes unstable. When you know why you're waking up, why you're fighting, why you're growing, your attitude naturally shifts from reaction to intention. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How does this help me move toward my purpose?" How to Develop an Unbreakable Positive Mental Attitude. Best motivational speech by Simon Sinek. That shift changes everything. A clear why creates a strong attitude, and a strong attitude creates an unbreakable mind. You don't control what life throws at you. Never have, never will. But you do control how you respond, and that is where your power lies. Most people tie their attitude to what's happening around them. If life is good, they feel good. If life is hard, they collapse. But mentally strong people flip that script. They don't let circumstances dictate their attitude. They let their attitude influence how they handle their circumstances. A positive mental attitude is a choice, not a coincidence. It's a discipline. It's saying, "I won't let the external world decide my internal world." The strongest individuals you know aren't strong because life was easy for them. They're strong because they chose who they would be in the middle of difficulty. That's where an unbreakable attitude is born. Everything you go through can either weaken you or strengthen you. The difference is the story you tell yourself. A positive mental attitude doesn't mean ignoring struggle. It means repurposing it. When something hard happens, ask yourself, "Is this here to stop me or prepare me?" Because the truth is, challenges don't break you, they build you, if you let them. Every setback teaches you resilience. Every failure teaches humility. Every mistake teaches wisdom. Every obstacle teaches patience. Strong people don't look at challenges and say, "Why me?" They look at them and say, "Train me." Your mind becomes unbreakable when you see every hardship as a tool instead of a threat. Your environment matters more than your motivation. You cannot develop a positive, unbreakable mindset while surrounding yourself with negativity, chaos, or people who don't believe in growth. Humans are emotional mirrors. We absorb what we see, hear, and feel around us. If you're surrounded by fear, you'll feel fear. If you're surrounded by doubt, you'll feel doubt. But when you surround yourself with people who push you, challenge you, support you, believe in you, your mindset transforms. Great attitudes aren't built in isolation, they are built in community. Find people who lift your standards. Find people who strengthen your vision. Find people who remind you of who you are when you forget. Because with the right environment, your mindset becomes not only positive, but unbreakable. A positive mental attitude does not begin with random optimism or surface level motivation. It begins with something far deeper, clarity of purpose. When you understand why you do what you do, your mind gains direction, and direction creates stability. People often think positivity is about forcing a smile or pretending everything is fine, but positivity is actually rooted in meaning. When your actions connect to a purpose that matters to you, your attitude becomes naturally elevated because you're not drifting, you're driven. Purpose acts like a lighthouse when life becomes foggy. It keeps you oriented when confusion tries to pull you off course. And when you know your why, you don't crumble at every setback because setbacks no longer feel random. They fit into a larger story you understand. That's where confidence grows, not from perfection, but from clarity. When people lack purpose, everything feels heavier. Small problems feel like mountains. Minor disappointments feel like failures. Every day becomes something to survive instead of something to build. The mind becomes fragile, reactive, and easily overwhelmed because it does not know what direction to anchor itself to. But when your purpose is clear, you start interpreting difficulties through a different lens. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "How does this push me forward?" That subtle shift in mindset turns confusion into curiosity and frustration into fuel. You stop seeing challenges as things working against you and start seeing them as things shaping you. Purpose gives your mind a reason to stay steady even when the world is chaotic. Without it, motivation collapses. With it, your attitude becomes intentional, powerful, and anchored. Purpose also rewires how you evaluate your progress. Without a why, you judge yourself based on comparison. Who's ahead, who's behind, who's doing better. But with purpose, you judge yourself based on alignment. Am I living in a way that honors what matters to me? This reduces insecurity and strengthens self-trust because your success is no longer measured by the pace of others, but by the consistency of your commitment. When you know the deeper reason behind your goals, you're less likely to quit when progress slows because you understand the mission is bigger than convenience. Purpose keeps your attitude focused on growth rather than approval. It grounds your confidence in values rather than validation. And the stronger your values, the more unshakable your positivity becomes. People often assume positivity is the outcome of good circumstances, but the truth is the opposite. Positivity is the foundation that allows you to build better circumstances. And that foundation is only possible when you start with why. Your why determines the direction of your energy. It tells you what to say yes to, what to say no to, and what to ignore completely. It helps you preserve mental energy instead of wasting it on meaningless distractions. Most people feel exhausted not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing too much of what doesn't matter. With a clear purpose, your mind stops scattering itself in 10 different directions. It becomes focused, intentional, and calm. Positivity naturally rises because you're no longer fighting against yourself. When your why is strong, your resilience increases. You start embracing challenges rather than avoiding them. You begin to see discomfort as a sign that you're moving towards something meaningful, not something dangerous. A clear purpose doesn't remove obstacles, but it gives you the mental strength to navigate them without losing yourself. Purpose turns doubt into data, turning mistakes into messages about how to improve rather than reasons to quit. It gives your attitude a sense of direction so powerful that setbacks feel temporary rather than defining. When you understand why your journey matters, your mind refuses to break under pressure. It bends, adapts, and grows stronger because it knows what it's fighting for. Your why also influences the people you attract. When you move with clarity and conviction, you naturally draw others who share your values, your energy, and your vision. Humans gravitate toward people who know where they're going because purpose is magnetic. It creates trust. When your purpose is clear, your positivity is genuine, not forced, not fake, but rooted in something meaningful. And when your positivity is genuine, you uplift others by simply being who you are. You become a source of steadiness in a world full of confusion. You inspire without trying. You lead without demanding. You encourage without preaching. Purpose gives your attitude the strength to influence, not because you speak loudly, but because you speak from a place of truth. Clarity of purpose also reduces fear. Most fear comes from uncertainty, fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of judgment. But when you start with why, the unknown becomes an adventure, failure becomes information, and judgment loses its power. When you know your purpose, fear becomes smaller because your mission becomes bigger. Your mind is no longer controlled by external noise or the unpredictability of life. You gain a sense of internal certainty, a rootedness that cannot be easily shaken. Your attitude becomes optimistic not because you expect everything to go right, but because you trust yourself to handle what goes wrong. That trust is the foundation of unbreakable positivity. Purpose also transforms discipline. When you don't know why something matters, discipline feels like punishment. But when your why is clear, discipline becomes devotion. You stay consistent not because you're forcing yourself, but because the work aligns with who you want to become. This alignment strengthens your mental attitude because it removes the internal conflict that drains motivation. Your mind no longer fights between what you want now and what you want most. Purpose creates harmony within your thoughts. It allows you to move through life with clarity rather than chaos. This clarity becomes the source of your mental strength, your focus, and your optimism. It turns effort into meaning and meaning into momentum. Your why becomes the filter through which you interpret your experiences. Instead of seeing problems as walls, you begin seeing them as doors. Instead of seeing criticism as attacks, you start seeing it as feedback. Instead of seeing uncertainty as something to fear, you begin seeing it as space to grow. Purpose reframes the entire emotional landscape of your mind. It gives you a sense of direction, that is immune to temporary frustration. Positivity becomes something you practice, not something you wait for. You learn to generate it from within rather than depending on the outside world to provide it. A positive attitude becomes your strategy, not your reaction. When you live with purpose, you become harder to discourage, harder to distract, and harder to break. You develop an inner steadiness that doesn't depend on circumstances. Your attitude becomes intentional rather than accidental. You wake up with a sense of meaning rather than a sense of dread. You approach challenges with curiosity rather than fear, and you give yourself permission to grow rather than permission to quit. A purpose-driven life doesn't remove struggle, but it makes struggle worthwhile. It strengthens your attitude from the inside out. And once your attitude is rooted in purpose, it becomes unbreakable because it is anchored to something greater than circumstance, greater than fear, and greater than doubt. Our life is shaped far more by your responses than by your circumstances. Most people spend their energy trying to control everything happening around them, only to feel overwhelmed when life refuses to cooperate. But mentally strong people flip the script. Instead of trying to control the outside world, they master the world within. You can't control every challenge, but you can control how you show up to that challenge. You can't stop difficulty from appearing, but you can choose how you interpret it. You can't decide what life gives you, but you can decide what you give back. This is where true power lies, not in the external, but in the internal. Once you understand this, your attitude becomes stronger than your environment. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the author of your responses. That's how a positive mental attitude begins to form. Every day brings dozens of moments where your response determines the direction of your mindset. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A friend disappoints you. A plan falls apart. A problem arises without warning. You can react impulsively and allow these moments to drain your energy, or you can respond intentionally and protect your peace. The difference between reacting and responding is the difference between chaos and clarity. Reacting is emotional, instant, and uncontrolled. Responding is thoughtful, measured, and deliberate. When you start living with intention rather than impulse, you gain a sense of mental freedom. You realize that even when life becomes unpredictable, your attitude doesn't have to be. That realization transforms stress into strength. You become less affected by sudden changes and more aligned with your own choices. Choosing your response does not mean ignoring your emotions. It means guiding them. Emotions are signals, not commands. They inform you, but they don't have to control you. When something frustrating happens, your first emotional reaction may be anger or disappointment, but your chosen response can still be wisdom. It takes practice, but over time, you begin to notice a delay between what you feel and what you choose to do. In that small delay lies incredible power. That delay protects your mindset from spiraling into negativity. It gives you space to consider your values instead of your fears. When you consistently choose responses rooted in purpose rather than impulse, you develop emotional mastery. And emotional mastery is one of the strongest foundations of a positive mental attitude. Sometimes the hardest part of choosing your response is recognizing that you don't have to mirror the energy you receive. If someone is rude, you don't have to be rude back. If someone criticizes you, you don't have to internalize it. If someone misunderstands you, you don't have to react defensively. You can choose to respond with clarity instead of confusion, strength instead of insecurity, peace instead of anger. You begin to realize that other people's behavior belongs to them. It is not a reflection of you. When you stop absorbing every negative interaction as a personal attack, your mindset becomes harder to disrupt. You gain a sense of emotional independence, meaning the attitudes of others no longer dictate your own. That independence is a major part of building an unbreakable mental attitude. Life often tests your patience, your discipline, and your stability, but these tests aren't punishments. They're practice. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to refine your responses. When you choose responses that align with your purpose, you strengthen your mindset in ways that last. When something stressful happens, instead of complaining, you might respond with problem solving. When something unexpected happens, instead of panicking, you might respond with adaptation. When something painful happens, instead of shutting down, you might respond with reflection. With every intentional response, your emotional endurance grows. You develop resilience not because life becomes easier, but because your attitude becomes stronger and steadier. People often blame circumstances for their attitude, saying things like, "I'm stressed because of my job," or "I'm upset because of what happened," or "I'm discouraged because things didn't go my way." But the truth is, circumstances only hold as much power as you give them. Two people can experience the same challenge. One becomes discouraged while the other becomes determined. The difference is the response, not the situation. When you take responsibility for your reactions, you gain the ability to change your life without needing everything around you to change first. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and start showing up with a powerful attitude, no matter the conditions. That shift is transformative. It gives you control where most people feel none. Choosing your response is also a form of self-respect. It means refusing to let the world dictate who you become. It means protecting your peace even when chaos is nearby. It means holding on to your values even when circumstances tempt you to abandon them. This form of self-respect strengthens your confidence and stabilizes your mindset. You begin to trust yourself more deeply because you know you can rely on your own discipline, not your environment. When your confidence is rooted in your choices rather than your circumstances, your mental attitude becomes extremely resilient. You start seeing challenges as situations to navigate, not threats to your identity. This is the mindset that builds emotional strength. The more you practice choosing your responses, the more natural it becomes. What once felt difficult eventually becomes instinct. Your attitude becomes less reactive and more proactive. You start anticipating challenges without being intimidated by them. You start observing your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. You start responding with clarity even in situations where you once would have reacted with panic. This growth is deeply empowering because it proves that your mind is not fixed, it is trainable. And with enough practice, you can train yourself to respond with positivity, purpose, and composure in almost any situation. This mastery is the essence of an unbreakable mindset. When you realize that your response is always within your control, you stop feeling helpless. You stop feeling like life is something happening to you and start recognizing that you have the authority to shape your experience. This doesn't mean ignoring hardship. It means choosing how you carry it. It means deciding that you won't let temporary difficulty define your attitude or dictate your future. Circumstances come and go, but your mindset stays with you. That makes it the most valuable asset you have. When you commit to choosing your responses intentionally, you build a mental attitude that remains positive even in turbulence, strong even in stress, and unbreakable even in uncertainty. The truth is simple. You may not control everything around you, but nothing around you can control your attitude unless you allow it. When you choose your responses with intention, you create mental freedom, emotional strength, and long-term resilience. You develop a mindset that doesn't collapse under pressure but grows because of it. This is how ordinary people become mentally strong. This is how positivity becomes unshakable. This is how you build a mind that life cannot break. You choose your response, not your circumstances. And in that choice, you find your power. Challenges are not meant to break you, they're meant to build you, but only if you learn to interpret them correctly. Most people see challenges as threats, something to fear, something to avoid, something that means they've done something wrong. But mentally strong people transform challenges into training. They understand that strength is not developed in comfort. It is developed in resistance. A challenge is like weight placed on your mind. If you lift it, you grow stronger. If you avoid it, you stay the same. The difference between trauma and training is the meaning you attach to your struggle. Trauma says, "This happened to hurt me." Training says, "This happened to prepare me." When you view challenges as preparation instead of punishment, every difficulty becomes part of your evolution rather than your downfall. This shift in meaning is what builds an unbreakable positive mental attitude. Every time you face a challenge, you are presented with two choices: shrink from it or grow from it. Shrinking creates fear. Growing creates strength. The challenge itself doesn't determine your growth, your interpretation does. When something goes wrong, you can choose to say, life is unfair, or you can choose to ask, what is life trying to teach me? That question transforms your pain into purpose. It moves your mindset from victimhood to leadership. You begin to see challenges as feedback rather than failure. You begin to understand that obstacles are not dead ends, but detours to something better. And when your mind embraces this mindset consistently, positivity becomes natural. You're no longer discouraged by difficulty because you trust that every challenge contains a lesson meant to elevate you, not destroy you. Strength develops through repetition. Just like muscles grow through repeated stress, your mental resilience grows through repeated challenges. Each struggle teaches you something new about yourself. Each setback reveals areas where you can improve. Each disappointment forces you to create new strategies, new perspectives, and new levels of patience. Without challenges, you would never learn to stretch beyond your limits. You would remain stuck in familiar patterns, never realizing your potential. Challenges expand your mental capacity. They show you how much you're capable of enduring, adapting to, and overcoming. When you start treating challenges like training sessions designed to strengthen your mind, hardship becomes less intimidating. You no longer approach challenges with fear. You approach them with purpose, knowing they are shaping you for something bigger. One of the biggest shifts you can make is learning to differentiate discomfort from danger. Most people treat any discomfort as a sign to stop, but discomfort is often the signal that growth is happening. When you're pushed outside your comfort zone, your mind naturally wants to retreat to familiarity. But if you stay there, if you keep pushing, keep trying, keep learning, you eventually break through. That breakthrough becomes confidence. Confidence comes from surviving difficulty. Confidence comes from pushing through resistance. Confidence comes from proving to yourself that you can handle more than you once believed. When you see challenges as training, discomfort becomes an ally instead of an enemy. You begin to welcome it because you know it expands your potential. It toughens your attitude and prepares you for future challenges with greater resilience. People with strong mindsets don't deny their struggles, they redefine them. Instead of saying, this is too hard, they say, this is helping me grow. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? They say, what is this helping me become? That shift is powerful because it changes the story you tell yourself about your challenges. Trauma thrives on negative meaning. Training thrives on positive meaning. The story determines whether a challenge weakens you or strengthens you. If you see yourself as a victim of your circumstances, your mindset collapses under pressure. But if you see yourself as a student of your circumstances, your mindset expands. You gain wisdom instead of bitterness. You gain patience instead of frustration. You gain strength instead of fear. You transform the emotional impact of the challenge into something constructive. Your attitude during difficult moments is what determines your future. Challenges force you to confront your weaknesses, but they also uncover your strengths. Sometimes you don't realize how strong you are until life requires you to be. Sometimes you don't know what you're capable of until circumstances push you to grow. When you treat challenges as training, you approach them with curiosity rather than fear. You begin to ask questions like, what can I learn here? How can this make me better? How can I use this experience in the future? These questions shift your focus toward growth. They activate your creativity, your resilience, and your ability to adapt. They help you see opportunity where others see obstacles. And with practice, this perspective becomes your default mode of thinking. When you view challenges as training, you begin to build emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is not the absence of hard emotions. It is the ability to manage them. You still feel frustration, sadness, or anger, but they no longer control you. You become stronger than your temporary feelings. You learn to breathe through discomfort rather than run from it. This ability is crucial because life will always bring moments that test your patience and stability. Without emotional resilience, these moments overwhelm you. With emotional resilience, these moments refine you. You begin to trust that no matter how intense the challenge is, you can navigate it with clarity. You become less reactive, more thoughtful, and more grounded. This emotional strength becomes part of your unbreakable mindset. Challenges also reveal who you are when things get tough. It is easy to be positive when life is smooth. It is easy to be kind when everything is going well. But true character is revealed in difficulty. When you respond to challenges with resilience, courage, and clarity, you develop a sense of pride in who you're becoming. You prove to yourself that your values are stronger than your fears. You prove that your mission is stronger than your discomfort. This self-respect becomes fuel for a positive mental attitude. It reminds you that you are not defined by what happens to you, but by how you respond to what happens. With each challenge you overcome, your confidence deepens, your attitude strengthens, and your belief in yourself expands. The greatest transformations often begin with the greatest challenges. The things that hurt you the most frequently become the things that teach you the most. When you choose to turn your challenges into training instead of trauma, you take control of your story. You refuse to let pain create a permanent scar. Instead, you let it sharpen your perspective. You let it increase your strength. You let it prepare you for the next stage of your life. This mindset doesn't erase the difficulty. It elevates it. It takes something painful and turns it into something purposeful. That is the key to an unbreakable positive mental attitude, not avoiding challenges but transforming them. Your life changes when you stop seeing challenges as setbacks and start seeing them as stepping stones. The challenge is not the enemy, your interpretation is. When you assign empowering meaning to your struggles, you free yourself from fear. You become mentally unshakable because you trust that every challenge brings value, growth, and wisdom. You develop an attitude that thrives under pressure, finds purpose in pain, and sees opportunity in adversity. This is the mindset that builds kings, leaders, warriors, and achievers. This is the mindset that turns ordinary people into extraordinary ones. This is the mindset that makes you unbreakable.